Now, I have this little metaphor that I think really represents what it's all about. I think in the form of a story. Stories are metaphors, and one of the things I'm going to talk about in the breakout session later is that one of the ways that you can communicate effectively with your staff, with your colleagues, is to use stories as a form of getting information across, because it gets across in a different way. When I was 13 years old, my mother came to me and said we were going tubing. Now, how many of you have been tubing down a river? Let me just see a show of hands. All right, a lot of you, but a lot of you have not. For those of you that have not been tubing, let me explain to you what it involves. It involves getting in the inner tube of a tractor tire and floating down a river. That's it. Let me tell you something. At 13 years old, I didn't do tubing for two reasons. One, we grew up in the Appalachian Mountains. I don't know what's in that river. There's snakes in that river. There's snapping turtles in the river. I don't need to get in something. I don't know what's there. I don't like that. That makes me uncomfortable. I hate snakes. Second reason, I saw the movie Deliverance. In fact, where I grew up, my dad told us, you're out in the woods, you hear banjo music, you run home. So I didn't want to go, but my mother said, well, everybody's going, you have to go. They weren't going to leave me at home by myself, so they took us out there. So we go out to the river, and we're all picking our inner tubes, where they're all basically the same. Now, I got to tell you something, just to give you a visual image. When I was 13 years old, I was 90 pounds soaking wet. I was chiseled, but I was 90 pounds. I did not fit in that inner tube. I couldn't keep myself in the middle because I would just slip right through. And every time I tried to get positioned, I felt like too much of me was hanging down below that inner tube. And I kept thinking, that's just bait. That made me nervous. But finally, I got sort of positioned in this thing, and we shoved off. We got in the river. Well, the first thing we hit were rapids. What causes rapids? So I'm just doing this over and over and over like this. I'm hitting every rock in that river. I'm not kidding you. The next day I got home, my entire backside was covered in bruises. Now, it did occur to me I could have gone to social services. Asked them to put me in a non-tubing family is what I should have done. Well, we got through the rapids, and although it hurt, it wasn't that bad. You know, one of the things I kept thinking while we were going through the rapids, well, things can't be in the rapids to get me because it's too fast. They wouldn't like that. Well, that's when we hit the slow water. And the slow water's slow because it's deep. And so we're just barely moving. And I'm in this tube in this deep, muddy water, and all I can think about is that there's all kinds of stuff right underneath me, just looking up going, when should we go after him? And I'm just terrified, and it's one of those things that totally freaked me out. And I thought, this is the worst thing I've ever experienced. Till we went around the bend. We go around the bend, and right there in the center of the river, right dead smack in the middle of the river, is a dead pig. A dead pig that had been there for some time. Because it was, as we would have said, all swolled up. About 10 times the normal size. And I realized at that point when I saw that pig that the current was taking me right towards it. My first reaction was involuntary, but we were in water and that was okay. My second reaction was to realize that my entire psychological well-being was contingent on me not hitting this pig. I'm thinking to myself, I hit that pig, I'm going to be the guy at future family reunions where people stand off to the side and they go, you know, he weren't right ever since he hit that pig. I didn't want to be that guy. So I had taken swimming lessons, so I commenced to thrashing my legs and my arms, just like I was moving as fast and as hard as I could, and I skirted around the side of the pig, and I missed it, and went off to the side. I got out of the water, got out on the shore. Now, there's only one person behind me. It was my mother. My mother, at 50-some years of age, did not know how to swim. So she's floating down this water. She doesn't know what to do to maneuver, and she realizes she is going to hit this pig too. Now, what she did know how to do was to scream. And she let out a scream. Birds flew out of the trees. And I swear it was like watching a car on ice, you know. There's nothing you're going to do about it. It's just going to slide. She slid and hit the belly of this pig. Somewhere on it, it went like that. But it was taut, so it sprang her off. And it shot her across the water, and she landed just a few feet from me, and she jumps out of that water and gets up on the bank, too. And she said, I'm not getting back in that water. And I said, me either. We walked 4 miles down to our car. Now, to this day, I have never been tubing since. I have never been tubing once. To this day, if my mother even smells bacon, she'll break out in hives. So what's the point? The point is that's what life is all about. I can't think of a better metaphor for life. Life is like that. Your work is like that. Some days it's easy. Some days you're just breezing along, things just go very well. The next day it's rapids, and you're just holding on to keep up. But here's the thing, and I think this is what's really key, is nobody's going to help you down that river. We were by ourselves in those tubes. You are by yourself in life for the most part. You have to figure out how to maneuver. We all have to figure out how to maneuver. Because if you don't learn how to maneuver through the rapids and the slow parts effectively, you're going to hit that pig. Or worse yet, you will be the pig.